We are talking with music legend Robert Earl Keen. He's coming to the Harvester Performance Center in Rocky Mount Tuesday, June 26th. And you were in Rhode Island yesterday. I think you're in Richmond tonight, Mississippi later on this week. You must still be having fun doing this music thing if you're putting all those long hours on the road, right?
Well, you try to make hay while the sun shines. It's not always like you get years in and out that sometimes you can't fill up the dates. So when I can fill up the dates, I do, and that's what we're a hard-working band, and we try to make as much as we can out on the road when we're out on the road.
Hey, tell me about your band, because some of these guys have been with you since the early days, right? Mid-'80s there for a couple of these guys, haven't they?
Right. I've had the core of my band and I have been together over 20 years, so that's that's where we start. But there's 7 of us on stage, so there's the core band of bass, drums, guitar, and steel guitar, and then I have a fiddle player and a mandolin player. And, the combination of these guys is like they used to say, there's about 300 or 400 years of musical experiences all wrapped up in my band if you added it back to back. So it's a quite an ensemble, and it's, we play a lot of shows, so we don't, mess around as far as musically. It's a really tight and really good show. And if you don't like my songs, here's what I'm getting to. You're going to love the music anyway. The musicians are world class.
We're chatting with Mr. Robert Earl Keen. He's going to be at the Harvester in Rocky Mount, June 26th. On that note, sometimes people have a hard time describing your music. It's Americana, it's country, it's bluegrass. Does having a band with that much talent, does that make it easy to shift back and forth between styles like you do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that I like. I've never been really, I call myself Americana because it fits what I do probably the best. But really, I'm a huge lover of bluegrass and other straight country and folk music. So. We could strip down to just all acoustic stuff, or we can go full-blown, loud electric. So we can go from, about 10 decibels to about 110 decibels in just one song. So it's really about, being able to have some options as far as like what you can play, and that's how this band set up.
Well, yeah, a great example of that is the record you released back in 2017, the Live Dinner Reunion. How fun was that, revisiting some of those songs and changing the arrangements a little bit and getting some friends up there to help you out on a few of them too? That was a pretty neat experience, wasn't it?
Well, I'll tell you, Kyle, when we did that, we put together the show, and then I started thinking, it'd be nice just to have a recording of this show, just at least to have an archive sort of recording. And so we did that. And then about, just 3 or 4 days before it, I thought, it'd be nice to have some of my friends. And I called all those guys, Lyle Lovett, Joe Ely, Bruce Robinson, Corey Morrow, and, the Reckless Kelly guys. And these are all people that that we're close musically. All of us are close, but we don't get to see each other very much. And for whatever reason, all the stars were aligned, and people weren't, they were able to come to the show, and they all did, every one of them. And after I played that show, I was riding on a cloud for a year, and I would tell myself, if I have any negative thoughts whatsoever, all I'm going to do is think about that night right there and think how fortunate I am to have such great friends and be able to play such great music. And that was truly, a magnificent, miraculous night for me.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible story about how it came together so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, talk about some of those guys, some of those Texas guys. We were chatting with Rodney Crowell a few weeks ago, and he said that, the Texas thing, he's a Houston guy like you, it just kind of gets in your blood, and it never leaves. You might try and run away from it, but it just kind of sticks in there. You can't get rid of it.
Well, he's absolutely right. I think it is because Texas has such a rich heritage. Not at all unlike Virginia. I mean, both states have a great, rich heritage in music and different styles of music. So you don't have to go, more than about a half a block to find, two or three different kinds of music in any certain, Friday or Saturday night in an urban area. And in all the rural areas, people are always playing music on the weekend. So music is a huge part of just the culture in Texas. And so, I mean, I don't mean this sounds singular about my thinking, but the fact is you really don't have to go out of Texas to get almost every kind of music you could possibly want, outside of some kind of Japanese throat singers, but you can find those. But you could.
Yeah, they're probably in town in Austin for a tour every now and then.
Yeah, you're spot on there. That's probably true.
Hey, we're talking with Robert Earl Keen. He's coming up at the Harvester Performance Center June 26th. Well, since you mentioned Virginia, the crowds here have always loved you. They've always been very receptive to your brand of music and what you bring to the table. I'm sure you love getting a chance to come to Virginia, right?
I love Virginia. I mean, I could be that walking bumper sticker with the I Heart Virginia thing on me because I don't know. I love the countryside. I love people. I love the entire vibe of it. And then I'm pretty steeped in history. I hate to use the term history buff, but I'll just stick with this. I know all the presidents' birthdays, so I know history at least that well. And so I mean, just in a historical perspective, Virginia is the linchpin of U.S. history, so it's fantastic. So, I've come up here for years, and it's always been good for me. I mean, I feel like I have some similar sensibilities as people here that I meet.
Oh, I think you fit just perfectly. Hey, we talked about your last live album there. What's next in the studio? I'm sure you got something in the works, or you're cooking up something behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, well, I have one thing I can't really talk about because I can't, it's not really fully formed. But I have that. That's on the horizon. Also, I'm going to be making just a brand new record of songs in 2019, and I'm, have a handful of songs, and I'm gonna, as soon as I can get off the road a little bit, I'm gonna, get back to writing because that's, well, I like performing and I like playing, but it's kind of, I can't, if I had to choose, I can't choose, but I do love writing, so I'm gonna get back off here pretty soon and, kind of fill out what I need to fill out as far as to get a record going in the next year.
Well, let's talk songwriting for a little bit, if we could. I'm always intrigued by guys like you that can just pump out great song after great song. I mean, what's your process? Do you try and write all the time, or do you wait for inspiration to strike? Just how do you work?
I'm more of the second, the latter there. I kind of go on inspiration, and since I've done this for quite a while, I'm really pretty much in tune with like how creative I am, like within a certain period of time. So if I sort of start thinking, my brain's working pretty well here, I need to kind of sit down. So I'll put some effort into, putting a little bit more structure to it and sitting down and working on songs because I think in terms of like, these times pass. You can't always be inspired, and you can't always put together a really great song. You can almost always, after a certain period of time, because songwriting is a craft as much as it is a talent. After a certain period of time, you can always put together a song. You can create a song, but that doesn't mean anything about how good it might be. So when you feel inspired, it's almost a sin to waste that inspired moment on anything else but sitting down with a guitar in your hand.
Are you a rewrite and edit kind of a guy, or is it typically the first time around when it comes out of the guitar in your head, is that kind of how it sticks?
Well, Kyle, when I started, I kind of, felt like, I was some kind of, vehicle for, the universe. And,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that I came out of my head was so brilliant that, even if I didn't understand it, I thought, I got to leave this alone because, this is not, this is some kind of, perfect lyric, and, people will get it, or even if they don't get it, they'll get it later or something. And then I realized after a while that some of these things didn't make sense whatsoever. So yes, the answer is yes. I really, I get the structure. I get get a lot of the melody going. I get all that stuff going. I get it kind of sketched out, and then I go back and make sure that I'm say what I mean and mean what I say.
That's great stuff. We're chatting with Robert Earl Keen. He's at the Harvester Performance Center in Rocky Mount. All right, one more question about the songwriting. I mean, in your early days, you're hanging out with Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt and Steve Earle and all these other guys. That's a blessing and a curse, right? Because you get to learn from them, but then also on the negative side, it kind of hurts your ego a little bit, right? Because you're wondering, am I as good as these guys? Is that how you felt?
Well, you know what? I'll say this. I always completely deferred to their talent and their genius, and I really didn't try to. I didn't try to, try to compete with them on that level at all. I actually really tried to become more of a sponge, and absorb, their way of thinking and their songs and how they put together songs, and I look back at some of my early songs, and they don't compare. So Guy wrote some songs. Both Guy and Townes. I know the first song both of them wrote, and both the first songs they ever wrote were better than the songs that I've been writing for 5 years. So I know that they were amazing writers. So I was just glad to be part of it. But I wasn't intimidated. I didn't care. It didn't bother me if they thought. I had one time, Townes, get mad at me one time. I used to tour with Guy and Townes, and I had Townes get mad at me one time to start hollering at me that I wasn't an artist. I wasn't Vincent Van Gogh, and I was like, no, I'm not, because I don't even paint, And he's like, Anyway, it was weird. It was a stupid argument, but I got challenged a few times by those guys, and that didn't bother, that didn't keep me going. I mean, that didn't just slow me down whatsoever.
Well, as you said, the road goes on forever, and the party never ends, right? It sounds like you're still living that lyric out. Mr. Robert Earl Keen, this has been a lot of fun. We talked about a new project maybe that folks can anticipate and keep their fingers crossed for. What do we leave out? What else do we need to hit on? Anything?
No, I think we covered it all. I mean, I always encourage people to come out to these live shows because I have so many I've been touring for the better part of 30 years, and I have so many people, come to shows, especially these days, and say, I've listened to you for 10 years, and I never saw you play. I can't believe I missed this. You're better live than you are on record. And I go, well, I don't know. It should be. I've been doing this as hard as I've been doing anything else. So I really encourage people. Like I said before, even if they're not real crazy about my songwriting or something, just the musicality and what we put on as far as like a live show is, I'll put that up against it.
Yeah, it's kind of an advertisement there just for live music in general. It's sort of like it was when you were starting out, right? When you had to tour a lot and play a bunch of gigs and make a name for yourself. Then in the 90s and early 2000s, everybody was selling CDs, so touring wasn't as big. And now it's kind of coming around full circle, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, there are more people out there touring than ever. It's crazy. And you have to have the the stamina for it. So that's we're good at that. So we're out there as much as we can.
Yeah, you guys are some of the best in the business. We're really looking forward to it. Robert Earl Keen, thank you so much for your time, man.
Well, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. I enjoyed visiting with you.